What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for February 17th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast, a President's Day edition. And I think today we finally just breathe, let the reality kind of soak in. We had a week worth of celebrating, at least for me anyway. I need a break. I need to just sit and enjoy this. And it's been a fun week, though. Absolutely fun week. Went to the Temple game yesterday for Hooter's birthday. And on Monday, I'm just relaxing today. But we still are Super Bowl champions. Some quick housekeeping notes. First, obviously, we're in a dead time right now in Philly sports. Sixers don't play again until Thursday. The Flyers don't play again until Saturday. I believe the Phillies' first spring training game is on Saturday. So we got a week of nothing, catch up on some shows, all kinds of other good stuff to do this week. It was weird yesterday not watching a football game for the first time in a while. I know some people are like, oh, they kind of make it a big deal, but it was weird. But we slowly are heading into the offseason. Probably next week we'll start looking at free agency, the draft, and things like that. But let's go one more week of just enjoying being Super Bowl champions. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Continue to spread the word. Let's outsmart the algorithm. Gonna hopefully now have some time to do some of the things I've been putting off to do as far as different things with the podcast, with the algorithms and things. So stay tuned for that. But let's enjoy it. Check out my friends over at the On Pattison site. Great Philly sports coverage, especially with the Phillies right here around the corner. They do an awesome job with their coverage. So go check them out. You can even subscribe to them. It gets delivered right to your inbox. We're featured there a couple times a week. So be sure to check them out. All right, let's recap yesterday's question of the day. And this is certainly, timing probably was everything with this one. And I could probably ask this same question again in 6 months, and it might be and look slightly different, but that's okay. I asked, is this 2024 Eagles team the greatest team in Philly sports history? 86% of you said, yes, it is. And from the comments I got, Kyle in Coatesville summed it up perfectly. The only team that could possibly have an argument would be the 83 Sixers. And we might do something with that down the road because there are a lot of similarities between those two teams. But I really do think that is the only team in Philly sports history that can hold a candle to this team. But I will look more into that as some time passes and we're not all still high and hyped up after the win. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. We're going to have another one right now. And because of the comparison to the 83 Sixers and just how Moses Malone put them over the hump, you really can make the argument that three players in Philly sports history, took their team to the next level. Obviously, Moses. You can make the argument that Saquon really was the difference maker this year, although with that defense and the way they all kind of came together, it was sort of just everything together. But Saquon certainly was a difference maker for this Eagles team. And then the other one is Pete Rose, who put that 1980 Phillies team over the hump as well. So, of those three, I'm sure I know which way this is going to go, and that's fine. But it's definitely a debate that we could have. Which one of those players was the biggest difference makers for their team? Was it Moses, Saquon, or Pete Rose? Call or text me on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your mind? And like I said, to me it's hard because all three of them, those teams don't win without that guy. Moses certainly probably had the bigger impact because basketball is 5-on-5, and they absolutely dominated through that playoffs. We all know what Saquon did, and it wasn't just him, but he carried a big load through the regular season and even into the playoffs. Obviously, you don't win without Jalen. Zach Bond was huge, but I think Saquon was the difference maker. And then Pete Rose, again, it's baseball, so you have to rely on so many other things to make the team win. But Pete Rose certainly brought something that those Phillies teams in the late 70s were missing. So it's an interesting question. But which one of those guys was the biggest difference maker? Moses Malone, Saquon Barkley, or Pete Rose? Let me know on the Back to the Future voice and text line or any of my social media. Let's have some fun here on a President's Day. All right, if you haven't done so already, the Eagles do, after each game, the unscripted and sort of like a behind-the-scenes look at each game. Check out the unscripted for the Super Bowl. It was amazing. I just all of the leaders got up and spoke. AJ giving all kinds of flowers and shout outs to the other receivers. Said he gets a lot of the credit, but it's those guys in practice making him better. I thought that was an awesome move. CJ Gardner-Johnson in tears, saying that we're all winners, how much it meant to him to be there. Jalen talked about how much that last Super Bowl changed his life and really kind of got a glimpse into what motivated and drove him throughout. He was like, I didn't get benched. I played well, but we came up short. He talked about feeling empty after that. And that's why I think this team is different and really has a shot. But I really highly recommend that. It was an awesome, it's like about an 11-minute video. And it really kind of took you behind the scenes the day before the Super Bowl. The other story I saw yesterday is absolutely ridiculous from the NFL. Went through, Jalix Hunt got fined. And if you notice, he did a little bit of a Trent Cole pull the arrow out celebration after his sack. The NFL fined him for that. And Trent Cole did that. How many? I think he has 70, 80 some sacks in his career as an Eagle. So we saw that 70 or 80 times from Trent Cole. And Jalix Hunt gets fined for that in the Super Bowl. Absolutely ridiculous. I saw a bunch of people, celebrities and things like that, offering to pay his fines. Come on, NFL. You got to be better than that. Like context. It's like your TikTok. TikTok always takes down my question of the day videos. Why? I have no idea. But come on, NFL. You have to be better than that. Phillies news. I did read a couple different articles yesterday that Kyle Schwarber and JT Realmuto are open to new contracts with the Phillies. I don't know what that means or what that looks like. I truthfully don't even know if at this point I'd entertain without kind of seeing how this season plays out. I think you don't want to run the risk of having more aging guys locked into contracts. But we'll see how it goes. They're both open to it. It appears as though the Phillies are open to discuss with them. But like I said, I think I would hold off on that. But we'll see how it goes. More on the Phillies as we flip the page and more stories start coming out of spring training as the full squad gets ready to report here soon. All right, today we're going to go all the way back to 1941. And on this day in 1941, hometown hero Gus Dorazio took on Joe Louis at Convention Hall in Philly. Dorazio was from South Philly. Some say he was part of one of the guys that was the inspiration for the Rocky character, kind of a street thug who boxed on the side, got a chance to fight the heavyweight champion of the world. Joe Louis came in, like I said, as the champion, defending his title for the 14th time, and it wasn't close. Joe Louis knocked him out in the second round. It was Dorazio's only title fight of his career. He even said, like, one of the inspirations behind the Rocky character, Sylvester Stallone even debated changing the ending, like slightly changing the ending of Rocky to follow Dorazio's life more. Later in his life, he was put in prison for second-degree murder, beating somebody with his hands. And that was allegedly what Sylvester Stallone toyed around with, making the ending of Rocky. But then he decided to make Rocky the hero, and we all know how that worked out. But this title fight took place in front of over 15,000 people at Convention Hall, one of the biggest crowds to ever see a boxing match there. And it just wasn't meant to be for Dorazio, who, after Joe Louis died, he always spoke about this fight. He was interviewed for the Inquirer when Joe Louis died and said he always felt if he could have had a rematch, he would have beat him. He felt he hurt him enough in the first round that he saw a way to get the victory over him. But on this day, it just was not meant to be. Back in 1941, Joe Louis defended the title for the 14th time, knocking Gus Dorazio from South Philly out in the second round at Convention Hall. Insert your own Coming to America joke right now. And that happened on this day in 1941. And no, Joe Louis was not 175 years old during the time of this fight. Finally today, our Black History legacy maker with Philly ties, we're going to spotlight Earl Lloyd. And Earl was an Alexandria, Virginia native. He played his college ball at West Virginia State, where he won 2 Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association titles. It's a mouthful to say. He was a 2-time All-American, played some time with the Globetrotters before he was drafted in the 9th round of the 1950 NBA draft by the Washington Capitals. Not the Capitals like we see in Washington now, Capitals with an O-L. During that draft, he was one of 3 black players drafted, the first black to be drafted into the NBA. Due to the way the scheduling played out, he became the first black player in NBA history. Unfortunately, the Washington Capitals team folded. He ended up serving in the Army for, I believe it was the Korean War, and then he got picked up on waivers by the Syracuse Nationals, who we all know became the Philadelphia 76ers back in 1962. For his career, though, Earl Lloyd averaged a career-high 10.2 points a game and 7.7 rebounds for that 1955 Syracuse Nationals team. He also became one of the first black players, along with Jim Tucker, to play on an NBA championship team in that 1955 season. He coached with the Pistons when he was done. He is a Naismith Hall of Famer, but most importantly, he laid the groundwork for so many NBA players, and he really was a trailblazer, trendsetter, and spoke out against the struggles and racism and segregation that he experienced while playing in the NBA. But Earl Lloyd is today's Black History legacy maker with Philadelphia ties. His tie to Philly is he played for the Syracuse Nationals, the team that did move to Philadelphia to become the 76ers, winning a championship in 1955, becoming not only the first black player to play in the NBA, one of the 2 first black players to win a national or an NBA championship. He did that with Jim Tucker during that 1955 Syracuse National season. So Earl Lloyd, we salute you. Thank you for paving the way for today's NBA. On this day in 1941, Gus Dorazio got knocked out in the second round by Joe Louis at Convention Hall. Dorazio, the South Philly guy. Joe Louis, the heavyweight champion of the world, defended for the 14th time. We'll have more on the Sixers and Flyers as the week progresses, as they look to kick off the next part of their season. And we will, of course, if anything, Eagles comes up, as they're still looking for the offensive coordinator. We'll take a look at that. Phillies in spring training. What are they going to do with some of these contracts? The lineup. How's the pitching staff going to hold up? All of that stuff is coming up on the horizon. But today is more of a day of rest. And it's a quiet time right now in Philly sports. And we certainly need it after riding the high for literally, if you think about it, from about Christmas, early December even, till last week, Friday. We've been riding a high. So I'm spent. It's well worth it. It's a feeling I would love to do again same time next year. But I am spent. So it's a good week to just kind of rest, recharge, and get ready for spring training. Whatever the debacle is that's going to be the end of the Sixers season, hopefully we can see the Flyers grow. March Madness is coming up. All kinds of fun stuff on the horizon. But this week, we take it easy. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. Oh, by the way, check out my friends at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things going over there with their Sports Fan Network, as they're also turning the page to basketball. And, of course, Philly Goat. How could I almost have forgotten Philly Goat? Go to Philly Goat. Check out their wide selection of Philly gear. They got Super Bowl champion gear, all kinds of Eagle stuff that you can buy to celebrate the win. Gear up for Philly season, as they got a ton of Philly stuff too. Probably one of the most popular shirts they have is the Believe shirt, like the Ted Lasso. So go check them out. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. Don't forget to let me know which one of the players, Moses Malone, Saquon Barkley, or Pete Rose, was a bigger difference maker for their team. Now, this has been This Day in Philly Sports History for February 17th, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Monday. And until next time, for one last time this season, go Birds.